What's going on, everyone? Thank you so much for joining me on this channel. Today I want to talk to you about purpose, and I think there's a lot of cliches about, well, what's the purpose for my life, and all these existential kind of like questions, but I want to give you some practical advice on how do you find the purpose for your life. And I think one of the most frequent questions that I get is, how do I know that I'm not wasting my life? How do I know that the purpose that I'm pursuing is the right one? And obviously, the easy answer, the way you know that you're not wasting your life is by not wasting your time, because our lives is just a summary of all of our moments put together. I've heard Francis Chan say this, that the worst thing about life, or the worst thing that you can do in life, is to succeed at things that really don't matter. Of course, what matters for eternity is things that are eternal, things that are not temporary. For example, your car is not eternal, your car is temporary. And there's always gonna be a car that's nicer that comes out. There's always gonna be some new trend that, it's gonna be the latest and greatest. So things that will not go out of style is things that last for eternity. And I think this has been such a big part of the message of my life, is to invest into eternity, to invest in things that will outlast this life. Because I think for all of us, death it's not a question of if, it's a question of when. We all have expiration dates. I remember one particular story. One time I was in the hospital because of a friend of mine, he had a major surgery. It was about maybe 2 a.m. in the morning. And as I was sleeping, I heard this cry, this kind of groaning, this kind of like unbearable cry. And I wanted to go investigate and see what's going on. I tiptoed around the corner and I walked towards this room. And in this room, I saw this picture that I'll never really forget. And on this hospital bed, there was a grandma, and she was all kind of like wrinkled up. She was very, very old. But she was in so much pain. And I kind of realized that she was dying because her son was just kind of like watching over her, and she was just in agony. And as I was watching this scene, I remember thinking, like, Slavik, you're staring right now. You should probably stop. But I couldn't move. Somehow I was arrested by kind of this sight. And I remember that moment God spoke to my heart and saying that she was young too. She had her whole life ahead of her, and now is time for her departure. And I remember thinking that one day I'll be in the same situation, and I hope that I can look back at my life and say I've invested my life in things that matter for eternity. So with that said, I want to give you some practical advice that you can do, some things that you can invest in to make sure that your life matters for eternity. Number one, obviously, is making sure that you have a great relationship with God. When it comes to a relationship with God, if we get all the things right, but if we get this one thing wrong, then ultimately, in light of eternity, it really doesn't matter what we were right about. The second thing that I want to encourage you is to invest in people, because these two things are eternal: our relationship with God and our relationship with other people. Can you imagine the people that you hang out with, people that are your friends, you're gonna know them for eternity? That's pretty awesome. C.S. Lewis says that arts and cultures and civilizations, they're all temporary, they're all mortal, but the person right next to you, they're immortal. A few more things that you can do is make sure that you are intentional about your purpose for your life. And the way you're intentional is to sit down and really think about your life and say, what is the mission of my life? A life with no purpose, with no mission, is kind of like a ship at the sea, kind of lost in the waves, and it doesn't have where to go and doesn't know where it's at. And a life without purpose is a life that is just a cycle of abuse, because it doesn't really know where to go. So I would say that if you're gonna spend years kind of going to school and learning new things, that you would spend at least, some time thinking over your life and say, okay, what is the purpose of my life? And obviously we understand the overarching purpose is to invest in our relationship with God and invest in our relationship with people. But really sit down and say, okay, what does that mean? And write a statement. For example, my life mission statement is that I exist to use everything that I have, all my resources and all that I am, to glorify God and introduce other people to Him. that is the purpose of my life, and get them to understand that relationship in light of eternity. And once you have a mission statement that you write down, next thing to do is to make sure that you write certain resolutions. And resolutions are basically kind of a guiding principles of your life. I know that one of my resolutions, for example, is to make sure that every single time I sin, I will go repent. If you need more help on that, you can look up the resolutions by Jonathan Edwards. And he has so many of them. And one of them, for example, is that he has resolved to never do something in his life that he would not do if he only had like a few hours to live. I think that's a pretty good resolution, and so you have a mission statement, and you make resolutions for your life that you write down. Oh, okay, what's important to me? What are my convictions? What are my morals? What are the boundaries of my life that I want to set, that I don't want to step over? So with that said, thank you so much for watching this video, and make sure you subscribe and like this video.